We are live. Welcome to Marshall Met and me and my co-host, Growling Dog Brother Renee. And remember,
And,
folks,
and, and I'm
I'm
actually
the
on
nice
time.
one.
I'm on time.
I'm the nice one,
No, you're
and
not. No, you're not.
so
I'm
tonight's gonna
the
be really
nice one.
interesting. I'm looking forward to tonight. So I'm gonna I'll go into how I met John, and it's actually kind of a funny story at this seminar where we met, and in there, and then we kind of hit it off after that, and he was incredibly instrumental in some of the knife grappling I was doing because, as me and you have spoken before, I don't believe in getting a 120-pound guy and seeing if your stuff works or not, right? So he was really instrumental in that, and he's going to be covering. He really went deep into the empty hand aspect of AMOK, which is the four themes which he's going to talk about. But he's also going to go into recovery and et cetera. So, um, yeah, so I'm going to just share this over to the group, and then we'll bring them up, and yeah, we'll kick this off because it is time. How are you doing today, Renee?
I've never been happier.
Jeez. Oh my!
I'm working. I'm working on it. I'm working on it.
You and John would get along good. So, but all right. Without further ado, here we are. I'm gonna drop this. Let's just get rid of this flyer and let's bring him up. Hey, big man, how are you?
Sir, how are you?
Good. So this is my co-host Renee. Nasty fellow, but
No,
so
no, no, no. Let's not start there. I am the
No,
nicest person you'll ever meet. I'll just tell you that right now.
glad to hear it. That's what we need.
Perfect. All right.
so John, I was telling the folks, man. I remember when we first met. It was Gould and Tom Sawyer's seminar, and I hear this big clang, and I'm looking over Dave. I'm like, what is that noise? And so David Gould goes, oh, it's Big John over there. So I look over and I'm seeing you. We were doing the Highline Crusadas, right? Off the long and short. And I'm seeing Wally, who had the bad knee. I'm seeing him doing the hokey pokey, man, going out when you're like dropping those number 12s on him. I'm just like, good heavens. So I came over and I'm like, I got to check this out. But you guys were obviously incredible, nice as all could be. And history, here we are, right? So
Let's thing, Wally wouldn't expect anything but everything I've got to give him. You know what I mean? So,
I just remember him just like this guy. Oh my gosh. So how you been?
been great. Been great.
Oh, good on
Everybody's
you.
family's well. I hope everybody's well with you guys.
Yeah, yeah. So
You
let's.
know,
When did you? I guess let's get into your quick background. Like, so did you do anything pre-amok? Like, did you train anything?
not really. I mean, before, well, I'm sorry. Yes, I got into karate with Wally for a little bit and was, I don't, maybe a week or so. He invited me to the 14th class, that he was having, and I took right to that. And the guy who manages that, we're gonna have to call him. I've told you about him before, but we're gonna call him Mr. Solitude. That's what Tom calls him. He's uh, he's really like the manager of our group, but he once told me and that he wants to be the toughest guy nobody ever heard of. So he's very private. Tom said to me, it's not the hottest thing in the world to get over there to train with him, but, being invited is not the hottest thing, but going back is even harder, and I've been fortunate to be with him for close to 2 decades now. So, um, a lot of the material we're going to talk about tonight basically was his brainchild, you know what I mean? And with the sprinkling of Tom, there's a lot of Tom's influence in here too, and I'll get to some of that.
So
But
when you say input, you're talking about the four themes, correct?
the four themes class, and that basically was our combatives class. So I was I'm a dad. of two daughters, two beautiful daughters, and I have a wife. And there was a time like when my daughter was born, you realize that you're their last line of defense, and I owe it to them to be everything I can be. If any there's ever an issue in the that comes down to them, we all looked at Dad as being our hero. He was your first hero, should have been anyway. And I got to do everything I possibly can to live up to that. Was my driving for for training. And,
You know what's really funny about that? I have a 9-year-old daughter,
yeah.
and she was having some issues with some kid in class. And I went to go pick her up today, and I saw the kid that was giving her a hard time. I was just staring at him, and he's like, "Are you River's dad?" I was like, "Yeah." Like, she says you're a martial arts instructor. I was like, "Yeah." And I was just, just staring at her. I was like, "Well, I just want to let you know that, River's a great girl." I thought it was hilarious because I was like, it's my first real like dad moment where I was like, this kid's only 10.
Yeah. I'm
I
telling you,
gotta
I'm sorry.
I gotta set the tone real quick here.
Yeah, it doesn't get easier as they get older. I used to call them the sniffers. The sniffers start coming around, and that's when
The
you
sniffers. That's a good one. The sniffers are coming around.
I mean, you got to let them know. I'll share this quick one with you. I had my line for my daughters was, and I actually got this from one of my uncles, was, look, I have no problem spending the rest of my life or dying for my daughter. I hope you feel the same way. And that's it, in a nutshell. I got no problem. I'll go to jail tomorrow for the rest of my life for either
Yeah,
one.
but if they're bringing folks around, even if they're upstanding and whatever, man. I mean, one look at you. I mean, come on now. Like,
So would you say that as my daughter gets older and she may, bring a date around the house, it's okay for me to clean my firearms at the kitchen table of the
Ooh,
person
100%. Hey, you a great time. That was
because I've already like thought this out. Like I already like I'm not gonna bring one out. I'm gonna bring everything out. I'm gonna just put it on the table and just like, oh, where are you guys going tonight? Oh, okay, that's nice.
like you're
for my
sharpening your knives.
Oh, loading mags. I,
once they start, the workout equipment and stuff, and they're kind of like, "This is your dad's," the Bob. Why does he need three of them?
Yeah.
Well,
How
most,
come they have holes in them too?
you know,
Wally, hey, Wally's like, hey, Wally, we just told a story about you, how I met you guys. So you're okay. You're into four themes. I guess before you took off with it, we're gonna get to that, of course. But like, what resonated with you, where like you were seeing this material and you wanted more of it?
sorry,
because it
can I
was
just jump in real quick? What do
Oh
you guys
yeah.
mean by the four themes?
Oh, good. Sorry. Good question, John.
no, got this out right because I wanted to say this right. There's a lot of terminologies, things I'm going to say that I'm going to get into that amongst our group and our training group, like pulls and attachments, things like that. I'll define in a little bit, but if there's anything I do say or does come across, I would ask to, stop me and let me clarify. You know what I mean? Because I want my goal is to get a lot of people to understand this recovery part. As far as the four themes are a system. It's an overlay system that Tom Sodas developed years ago, and it is a way of checking your functionality. You have, and it's labels. That's what he's going to tell you. It's just a bunch of labels, but when you put them together, you have every possible option that could be available. When you work, and it's the four themes are it needs uh, its own time to really get into that. And I'll show you. I will be able to tell you that this recovery stuff brings out your four themes. what happens is basically it's an overlay of a system that you can put on anything. I've showed Dean, we can use it in our footwork. We can use it in our, an upper body, lower body attacking thing. It's, a series of front, rear, whether I'm going, with a front motion or a rear motion, front of the target, rear of the target. Um, that's I don't want to get too deep into that, you know what I mean? But it's an overlay that will work with any system.
If I were to not make light of it, what it is, like the way Tom, like I did a little with Tom,
Yep.
front, back, back, front.
Front, rear. Yeah.
Okay,
So
you go rear. Okay.
in the motions, just in the motions, which we talked about as your entries, you're either going to enter with a front, which the front goes from your outside line to your center line. Okay, so there's your front motion. Your rear motion will come from your center line out. So it's either a front or it's a rear. Now, if you follow through with the same hand, you would go front. If I start with this motion, follow through with the second hand, that would become my front rear. So you can only go front, rear. Those are the only two options really you can do. Now you can change those strikes up, or you can go rear, front, and then there's like I said, there's a whole lot that goes into that as an overlay, the positioning chart. There's a lot. And I would prepare something for you guys if you really want to do that four themes thing.
Oh yes.
I would really set that up where we could get into, what I mean, that a lot deeper.
I would
Can
love
I
to do that. Yeah.
sorry. So is there a root art that this came from? Like, is it a
No,
JKD based, or is it like like a lot of systems that I've seen now, they're rooted in different arts. Like, is there a base art that this came from, or is this just like a mishmash of like a Heinz 57 kind of thing?
no, it's what it is it's a complete system. It's not, there's no strikes involved. You use your own strikes. That's why it'll work with any system, that you say. It's a matter of putting emotions in place and for you to know what you did and what you're leaving out. If if, all right, basically, one of the simpler things that, and I'll finish off on this. If you could do a PK, right? Everybody knows what a PK is. You do, you know what I mean here. But can you still do a PK from the back of a person? Have you done it from the side of the person? Have you done it from the other side of the person? Have you done it with your left hand up, your right hand down? Have you done it with your right hand down, your left hand up? You understand what I mean by that in a sense? Where it completes, it's an overlay that will complete your system that you have really kind of exposed every possible option.
Okay. So
it's not developed in any system. It's not doesn't stem from. It was Tom's brainchild, who was, I know when he was bouncing in LA, then he was tired of getting hit. So he had to develop, and it was you either have this motion or that motion. So let's put them all together and see exactly what they all are. That's, like I said, that's all you can really do. You can either come, if we want to talk straight, yeah, sure, you can go straight, but you're still probably coming in. We would still call that a front motion. Or you're going to go this way, which would be your rear motion in the system, you know what I mean, in that system. And like I said, if I want to, you're going to punch to the head, you're going to punch with your front hand to the front of the head, from your front hand to the rear of the head, from your rear hand to the front of the head, from your rear hand to the rear of the head. And you kind of overlay that, whatever system you're working on, it defines a completeness.
I hear you. I
we
get
got a
what you're
question
saying.
here. I'm sorry. We got a question. I don't know what PK is. This is from Henry.
Puda Kapol. where you take the head and shove that through into the armpit, and you take that
Oh,
takedown.
yeah.
Almost like the heaven and earth type of thing.
Gotcha. Yeah.
You know what's really funny about that? Like when I was bouncing, I got a chance to use it a couple times, and I didn't realize how easy it actually is, and
Absolutely.
how dynamic the person's the
Okay.
person's body is when they fly through the air. You do that to 'em.
You,
It was actually shocking when I saw the person's like feet do like a 360 because I didn't realize how hard I actually hit them. Right, so I pushed them.
no, but now if you did this, now can you imagine making that same motion from behind the person and
Mhm.
make that while you're standing in back of them? And if you did it with a left and a right, can you do it with a right and a left while you're standing behind them? Can you do it from the left side of them with your right hand and your left hand? Can you do it from if I said left to the right side of them with your left hand and your right hand? With this foot forward, with that foot forward. You understand? It takes the whole move and puts it through every possible option that you could be in.
Yeah,
Instead of always standing directly in front and disturbing it this way.
like for me, I actually was looking at some of the environmental textures around me when I was doing this. So if I was beside a bar and I did that, I know they would hit the bar a few times before they actually hit the floor.
Excellent. That's very advantageous, right?
So for me, it was that's kind of the way I started looking at a lot of takedowns. I wasn't about like I'm gonna double leg takedown somebody. I'd be like, if I double leg takedown this person against that wall, it's gonna hurt a hell of a lot more than just a double leg takedown.
Exactly. So you put in stuff, and in that you find, some ways are going to be easier than others. But the other one is still an option if you find yourself compromised and need to pull that option out. You've done it before.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? If you had to do it almost with one hand, you could do it. You follow what I mean? If you hooked that arm and did it this way, and caught that, you could pull it off.
yep.
But you don't know unless you try it and you train it. You'd never see it unless you saw it before.
I think what people are missing in that, and I'll just say it from my experience. Excuse me, but things that I saw is that if you are a smaller individual, like when I first started bouncing, I was 145 pounds. Like when I finished bouncing, I was like 210. But at 145 pounds, you got to learn to maneuver people with your weight to get them into that position, right? Like whether you like do a literally fall back for the person to come into you, so you can actually put that move in, sort of thing. When I was
Yeah,
bigger, yeah, it didn't really matter. But when I was, especially in my early bouncing career, when I was the smallest guy in the crew, I definitely had to learn how to use my weight to my advantage to get them, either off balance or put them in a position where I said places of texture where you can um, take care of that quickly.
yeah. I don't want to get it wasn't about PK, you know what I mean, Budoka Ball. It was more about like I said, just trying this particular move from every possible option, and every
Yeah.
configuration is probably a better word.
So
You know, position.
but you're still active doing this. Matter of fact, is it fair to say that, I know you started a couple decades ago, but you're running your own class now, correct?
Well, I have my group manager, yes, but you know what I mean. It's a brotherhood, AMOK. It's a brotherhood. We're all in this together, you
Yeah.
know.
So, when you, when you were getting this material, were you getting it from the other guy as well as getting the information from Tom as well? Was it from both?
We're all students of Tom, you know what I mean. We're all under the umbrella of Tom. So, and if we, what I'm working on, what the lab has got going on right now is these recovery drills,
The
and
recovery. Yeah.
that's where like the focus on You know what I mean? As far as this discussion now, you know what I mean? We'll talk about.
Let's yeah, we could do that because I would love to bring you back on where you can actually show some of that stuff. Like maybe you can get Wally, whoever. But now, because I remember talking to you when we last saw each other, you were differentiating between recovery and true recovery. So maybe for the folks that are watching, like what is your definition of the two and what discriminates the two?
Okay, well, we'll just go with the definition of recovery, okay, by the dictionary, is a return to a normal state of mind, strength, or health. So, in that, when you return to, which means obviously something had to be compromised and there was failure, right? So, if you, we want to work from that failure. You know, that's where I want to be. And I'll give you an example. Okay. Now, all right. So we've all walked out of a business. I'm going to say, let's take Home Depot. Okay. You walk out of Home Depot, you have your wife and your child with you, and you're heading over to your car. When you walk out that door, boom, your focus centers on the traffic and everything there. All your attention goes there. Then you see that that's okay. It starts to widen out a little. So you continue on and you go to your vehicle. And as you get to your vehicle, we're going to do the easy one first. This guy comes out screaming, charges at you, tells you took his parking spot. You read this 100%. You knew what was going. You knew he was coming. What his intentions were, what his intent was, and you did what you trained to do. You defended yourself, and everything went easy, right? Well, we hope it all went easy. So let's take another one. You walk out of Home Depot. You have your child there. Your wife is with you. You're wondering if you bought enough for whatever the hell you got. Is the size is right? Should I? All those little things that go on. Again, you cross that road. You got down to your car. Your son is crying. He wants to go to McDonald's because he's starving and you promised him McDonald's. You're Just at that point, a guy starts walking up and he says, "Hey, what year's your truck?" Oh, well, right there, your attention kind of turns to that guy. And you're like, well, it's a 98 Chevy. And depending on how much you like your truck, how much attention goes there. Just as that moment that happens, your wife starts flipping out that she lost her phone. Do you have her phone? Now, we all know at that moment right there, if you can put yourself with me, you would just turn right to your wife as far as the phone thing or the keys or her wallet, something major. That would be a major pull, right, of your attention. When that happens, that's when you get attacked. When you were totally unexpecting it, totally unaware of that happening, and your focus was somewhere else. That's the point that I want to train from.
From failure, like you just said, where you got distracted and now you got blindsided. And okay.
How do you think your reaction is going to be at that moment?
Probably not good. Yeah.
Yourself in that situation, though, right?
Mm.
You too, like all these things. She's like, "Where's my phone?" You're like, "Oh, you're getting barraged by this guy." Okay, so what we want to work on is awareness. It's your pulls. The pulls that the things that can pull your awareness. And I'm not going to speak for Tom, but I will tell you that this is what Tom gave us, my group, you know what I mean, to work on for awareness pulls. Motive, attention, intention, mindset, breathing, vision, instruction. Now, when you have those, right? So if you can pull enough of those awarenesses out, you compromise yourself. So now, I mean, you because you agree to this, you have to, your mindset has to be right. That you have to be able to let yourself go to that moment where you're not holding it back for the drill. So at this point, right, your counters are going to come in. Your counters and your attachments. Your attachments are what you have to your counter. So this guy, if we go back to Home Depot for a minute, the first guy that came in bitching, you took his parking spot, you lunged at him, you blocked, you strike, and you took care of business. That's still a counter, but you're borderline attacking at that moment. Now, the second scenario we gave you, when your attention is pulled, your structure is probably compromised because you turn. This guy comes, you defense, you're gonna put your blocks up first. You're gonna deal with that first. Then you're gonna develop some type of attachment, some type of counter to come out of that. So there's where the recovery lies: is how fast can we get from that moment
Mm-hmm.
to uh, to your attachment, to your block. I put together this little diagram. Okay, see this? In
No.
this first one, this is the first guy at Home Depot, basically. There were no pulls. You had a full read of what was going on. You read intent. And this is what happens most often in training when people are training counters. They're waiting on that moment, that move. You get to turn around and just smash them. This one here is that second one with just a few pulls. You kind of knew something was going on, but you was more like, whoa. Then you got your attachment in there. This last one is where there's a block, you're a block, then you're kind of getting pummeled, then you develop an attachment over here. So by training with pulls and your recovery, you hope to get, we all want to be here. But if I could get from here to here in a faster time, then that would be, beneficial to me. Are you guys
Great.
following? Yeah.
No,
I
no,
follow you.
absolutely.
Like,
Yeah.
it's funny because I go to the Home Depot a lot as a
I know you,
tradesman,
you got stories at the Home Depot, man. You know what?
and I've had countless encounters with people at Home Depot. But what I found really helps me is I always keep one earbud in, even though my phone's not may not even be on. And when people talk to me, I always point to my ear and just keep walking.
Yep.
I'm just ignoring them because I want to make sure when we leave a parking lot, the priority is get the family in the car first. I'll bring the groceries in and deal with whatever else is going out, whether people are begging for money or anything else. But I always have one earbud in. And when
Mm-hmm.
people talk to me, I just literally point in my ear and just wave them off. And it just kills all conversation. And 90% of the time, I'm not talking to anybody. I'm just,
Yeah.
I got to get out of there. So
No.
that's something I like to do. But no, 100%. And, part of it too is, like you said, training and everything else is, it's not just training yourself, but training the people around you and your family members. Like parking lots are not places to have conversations. Parking lots are not places where you have to get into an argument. We can argue at home. And
But it's, and I'm not trying to look at parking lots. What I'm trying to do is get that moment. I just wanted to
uh,
paint a mental picture where you were pulled
no,
in like 3 or 4, that you're 30% of
I,
your attention here. And at
no,
that moment, my wife was looking for her keys or her wallet or whatever, like 70, 80% of your attention went there. And it could be anywhere, any instance,
well, that's part of martial arts as well, though. Martial arts isn't just training yourself; it's training the unit that you're with, right? So, like when you're family, you drill how to get out of, like if there's a fire in your house, you drill for that. If something happens where daddy decides that he has to lay hands on somebody, what are you going to do? You're not going to grab daddy. You're going
Yeah,
to
having a
get in
plan.
the car. You know, it just, I think that's what's missing in martial arts as well, is that we focus
Yeah,
so much on training ourselves that we don't
right.
focus as training as a family unit, right? Or a team. Like when I was bouncing, like we used to drill stuff like, how do you get out of this? What do you do if I do this? If I have a guy and I'm taking him out, you're surrounding me. You're not just looking at the guy going, "Should I help him?" You know, like it's. I think that's part of the problem as well. In training is that we've lost the reality of real life situations, right?
Right. Well, that's the thing. People, it tends say, "Well, I'll smash if it gets that close. I will never let anybody get that close to me." Come on now, we're in Dunkin' Donuts. You're in a grocery store. People are going to get that close to you all the time. You can't,
You can't
be.
eliminate it totally, right?
So literally today, and this is hilarious. I was at a Home Depot today, and there's a homeless person begging for money, and I always say hello. I don't always give money, but I definitely say hello, make eye contact, and the person sat in front of my window, just screaming, like, "Oh, gonna get the alligators out of the elevator," like such crazy stuff. I I maintained eye contact, and I was, making sure nothing happened. And the second the light turned green, I bounced, but I'm not going to punch someone out just because they're streaming at the window of my car either, right?
Yeah.
Now, if my kids are in the car, I would probably react slightly different because at that point, that's a threat to me. That's like if something happens to me, then my kids are on their own, and I can't have that, right? So
Hmm.
no, I 100% get what you're saying. The only thing I would say is that we need to incorporate our families into our training, and maybe not just the training but the mentality of what's going to happen next.
Having to plan with them, right? Have a plan. What's their role? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what's the wife's role? What should do? Handle the kids, make the calls. You know what I mean? It just,
Meet me at the
My
car.
wife knows where I keep both my EDCs, because if I drop, she's the next line of defense, right?
Right.
And I know where she keeps hers, and I know where
Yeah.
all the ones in her vehicle are. It's like, but I guarantee you most people who train martial arts don't.
yeah,
Exactly.
neglected area. Yeah. So
Sorry, that was a bit of a rant, but
no, 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 no. So like, I
It's
just
like
trying to remember when we were talking, John. We were at that last seminar. Like, in other words, like some of the things you were going over, like the pushing and all that, getting into there, go into recovery there. So the whole thing with clicking that, like for David Gould, it recognition reaction, like how quickly can you recognize to react? And if there's gaps in between there, your reaction is going to be off. Your recovery is probably not going to even be an equation because you're just going to be out to lunch. You know what I mean? Is that? I mean, I'm thinking that's where you're coming from. Just maybe different verbiage.
yeah. Let's go back to that seminar. There's two things I want to go back to. First, let me go back to Renee for a minute. When you
Sure.
said, your wife knows don't grab dad, your daughter knows don't grab dad. Okay, so what I want to talk about is during that attack, when you decide your wife, your daughter got into the car, you're all set, you ready, you go to make your move, somebody else grabs you. You know what I mean? Now that you can't say that there isn't an innocent bystander. There isn't. That's why there can be failure in your attack.
100%, 100%. But I've also told that I've told my partner, my wife, that if things get out of hand where I'm not looking too good, I just want her to leave.
No, I hear you. And I'm not, and all I'm not saying this person stopped you, but
Mhm.
you went to throw your shot, and all of a sudden, they grabbed you, you slipped, over grabbed you, you overextended,
Yeah.
person stepped back. Anything, can happen in a realistic
Oh,
moment.
it's
And
and I'm gonna be on her. I'm gonna be 100% transparent with you. It's happened. It's happened where you know, my training failed me because either my overconfidence or an unforeseen thing, like whether it be wintertime or it's raining or I didn't see the secondary, like
yep,
I remember not that long ago when I was getting when a bunch of people tried to steal my truck. One guy grabbed me by the throat, and when I started dealing with that guy, I was being pummeled by two other people.
right.
And it just like that's the beauty about, oh, sorry, let me rephrase that. That's the reality of violence and real life situations is I think that we have dismissed that and given ourselves the perfect scenario for every fighting situation. And that's my problem with martial arts these days, is that we're always saying, well, if a guy grabs you here, you grab his pinky, you touch his knee, he'll poo his pants.
Yeah,
But
Right.
but that shit doesn't work. It's like you,
right.
you never know. And when you're in different people's worlds, like when you're dealing with people who are much more prone to violence or happy to use violence, it's going to throw you off because your training, if you haven't thought about that or been told that this could happen, it's going to devastate you. Like literally seen guys who are professional boxers get into a fight at a bar and stop because they're like, why am I getting hit with a chair? That's not allowed.
Yeah. But that bring in this reality, what's not expected, and that that bind.
Hundred
We've
percent.
all gone for that. That move. You held on for a little too long for that move, or you chased it. Like, why am I chasing this guy? You know what I mean? Type of thing. If
When I got jumped, it's almost a year now. When I got jumped, the first few hits I got in, I was like standing there going, "Is this actually happening?" Like it took me a
yeah,
while to actually register that I might get killed if I don't start moving. Right? Like and it was literally a second till my Spanish and Italian blood mixed and the rage kicked in. But yeah, it was pretty freaky. And I think what happened is I just got too comfortable in my training.
if you could get that second back, if you could work from that second, would you want to do it? That
Um,
moment, you sat there and you were kind of like, what the hell is happening? What's going on? Where did he go? Like, because all of a sudden you get spun around, your vision's
mhm,
gone. That's the pose we talked about. What happens when you can't see him anymore? If you fall down, you go face first. Where the hell is he?
yeah.
If you don't still feel him or know where he's at, how do I get up? Where do I get up? What am I supposed to do at this moment? You know what I mean? Because you've had that failure. Now that's
Oh, it
something.
was it was terrifying because after the fact, when I was driving to a birthday party afterwards, and I've told the story before, and like I was literally covered in like it's covered in like just like blood and sweat and everything else. And I'm going to a birthday party, and I was like, when I showed up to the birthday party, my wife's like, "What are you doing here? Like, like look at yourself, right?" I didn't register that this actually happened, and then I started thinking, Christ, if my kids were in the car, what would have happened? Like if my wife was in the car, what would I have done? And this is what I think, this is what really pisses me off when I hear people say, well, if you have to carry a weapon, then, your martial arts has failed you. It's like, no, man, like it's not martial arts to me is not a move, it's a mentality. And you have to change the way you think towards the reality of today's world. And unfortunately, today's world is a lot more violent than the stuff that we teach.
Oh, 100% agree. That's like I said, with my two daughters, I won't get it, but there were visions and news stories in my head that I kept in my head because that's what
Hell
got me
yeah.
off the couch every day. You know
Hell
what I mean?
yes.
They'll go downstairs and put in another half an hour because I'm not gonna stand there, and I'll have to be dead before you get to them. You will have to kill me, and I'm
There's
gonna.
a
Oh,
again, because I have some sort of psychological issues and anger issues, I put scenarios in my head, and
mhm.
we're having family time, we're having dinner, and I can feel my hands just clenching because I can, like, I'm imagining what I would have to do in order to get out of a scenario. And even
Right.
like my wife sometimes, like, you gotta get it out of your system because it's that
That
shit will give you
role
cancer
playing.
eventually.
I think we're all guilty of that role playing. You know what I mean? Like, imagining that scenario or, you know.
But Dean, you have to agree with me. Like, you have to put that in your head.
Oh no, I know. You know what's so funny? I was talking to Burton about this, among other things, and I was saying, like, if you look at the elite athletes, the Larry Birds, the Jordans, the Wayne Gretzky's, Tom Brady, you're trying to tell me they didn't play things out? I mean, come
Yeah.
on. So I totally believe that is an integral part of training. You have to visualize, like, okay, like when I go, you heard me, Renee, like parking garages, man. Anything go wrong, I just hate those things, right? But to play out like, okay, here this guy's coming here. She's going for the exit. She's going for the car. I need to, you know what I mean? I totally agree with you. You have to, right? I mean, I guess it's a question of the frequency and how much. Where is it overtaking you? Is it becoming unhealthy? Like anything else, that happy medium, I guess.
I don't know. I'd rather, for me, I'd rather it be unhealthy so I can sleep at night than for me to say that I missed something.
Yeah, no, no. Yeah, I think there's a compelling argument for both sides, right? Yeah.
So,
Um,
Dean, now let me get back to that seminar.
yes,
Okay,
please.
little exercise. Do you remember what I did with you that day?
Hey there. Yeah, I remember the one thing I really stood out is like you were pushing it, and like you were saying, like, because I was complacent. I'm like, why am I letting him push me? You know what I mean? And like you actually had to, like, not my finest moment,
You can
but
say
you
hello.
actually had to be like, why are you letting me do this? Because I got caught in that training kind of like environment.
And was you were pulled.
I don't know.
So go ahead, yeah, go ahead.
So what he did?
No, it's downstairs somewhere, sweetie. Okay, say goodbye.
Bye, bye, bye.
Get out of here.
We'll see if Dean remembers. What happened was what I did with Dean was I told him, I said, Dean, I'm going to have you block my punch. Okay, I'm going to throw a punch to your face, and I want you to block it. So as he said, okay, because he trusted me, you know what I mean. But I'm sure going through his head was like, all right, how hard are you going to throw this punch? Like, what are we
That was that was
standing
definitely
in?
concern.
What's that?
That was definitely concern.
Then I put my hand on his chest and I said, okay, Dom, I'm going to throw this. We're going to throw this on the count of three. As I put my hand on his chest, I kept pushing him back. Dean took multiple steps back because this was his pull. He was focused on this. He never focused on the hand
Yeah.
until I said, how far are you going to let me push you? Now, normally, and I think it was like normally I can get 3 steps out of people with that exercise. 3 steps where I have my hand on your chest, by your throat, but you're so pulled and your intention is to block this. Your attention's on this block. Your mind, your motive is to block it. Your mind is wondering like, how hard is he going to punch this? Why is he going to throw this punch right now? What's the meaning behind this? All these things are going on in your head. In the meantime, my hand slipped up onto your chest. And now if I said, Dean, don't let me, we're going to work hands to your throat, hands to your center, your chest, hands to here, I would have never gotten that there. I would have never gotten a step out of him.
Right,
But
right, yeah.
in this moment, thinking about this and his focus and everything was here, this one slipped right in. And by that time, I could see it in his face that, he's like, why, there was a puzzled look. I
Oh
think
yeah,
it was
no, 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 and I'm not denying you're right because exactly based on your size, which people I'm sure are getting an idea just through your picture there.
Well,
Yeah,
you
I'm
look
like
like you're about 5'4" and about 140 pounds.
times that by
really,
two. So I'm thinking
that's my
like, yeah, but yeah, I tell you, it was an incredible teaching moment, learning moment. Like, well, you know me by now. I mean, like, I'm humble. Like, man, if you got something to offer, man, man,
right.
I'm willing to listen, learn, absorb. And it was a great moment. Because you're right. I got caught up in your huge hand aiming down like here, right?
Yeah,
And
but
that
you know
was
what, Dean? Like, obviously, the lesson was learned because I remember when you came here, and we had our infamous basement session. Um, when I started pushing, you didn't go back; you started sidestepping. So you were cutting off my angles,
We
which really,
do.
like, it really pissed me off. But at the same token, I was like, "That's cool," because now I have to change the way I'm gonna attack because you're moving away and you're cutting off my angles. So obviously it worked, right?
Yeah, could we really do that? Because I tell you, that stuck with me. Matter of fact, on the way home, I didn't never shared this with John, but I'm like, why the hell like why didn't I why did I do that? Like, why did I just move his hand in quarter turn? Or, yeah, it was, but at the same time, I'm glad it did happen because I know for absolute fact that learning moment has made me better, you know?
Now, if we did that, Dean, more often, and say, when if we worked out together and we did multiple times, and we do all different types of, what I mean, attacks and pulls, and then I slipped that in there, you'd have to agree that you'd start noticing that hand a lot faster.
I 100%. I
Okay.
can 100% confidence say that. Yeah,
Would you say that that's an improvement in your recovery then?
I would. I think so. Yeah.
I think I would dare to say that's not just an improvement on your recovery, but on your delivery as well. Should you decide to go to a primary EDC or anything else, because at that
Withdraw.
point you've given yourself the time to say, okay, fuck it, I'm in a bad place. I got to do something to get out of here. Now, if I can run, great. If I can't,
Right. And but it's noticing and picking up on the hand faster. That's what we want to do. That's where you notice like I said, the pulls for that were, and you could almost add structure in because I was pushing him backwards. I had my hand on his chest. So I had his mental, his motive, his mindset, his intention. His intention was all locked up in here, you know. And then his structure was starting to be compromised. If I had gone harder and faster, probably could have gotten it. And that's so if we can improve on those, then we can improve on our recovery time. Your answer to that push or that hand on your chest would you recognize, you'll recognize it faster, and you'll have multiple defenses for it because you'll figure out once. And you know one of the biggest things I've learned out of these drills is distance. Now we all talk about it, but the distance that you gain by realizing that you're being pulled, gain distance. Understand, number one, you recognize that you're being pulled because at that moment, after we talked about this, Dean, and if I did that to you again, you would realize that there's pulls going on.
Yes.
And you know what I mean? And that would be part of your recovery because you recognize that those pulls are starting to get loose. They're starting to pull out. So we got to pull those back in, and distance is your best friend for that. Because without distance, you lose distance and timing, but you lose timing when you give up distance.
No, I mean distance, time, options, right? Less distance, less time, less. I mean, yeah, I totally am with you with that. Yeah, 100%. Here, guys.
You
Here,
know,
Renee. Here, you guys. I'm just gonna see what's going on with these dogs. But Renee, I'm gonna be right back.
yep.
yeah. So the first time I met Dean was at it was a after hours club where I was dancing, and
I love the place. No,
I kept telling him you can't use cold change as a tip. You gotta use bills.
rolling nickels every time he goes.
He's back. He doesn't like that story. So
What's what's that? Which story? Oh, Renee, you can't believe it, man. Like doing knife grappling with John is like, um, if you could do it with him, man, you're gonna be in good shape. Or even 50% success, man, you could be in good shape, man. I'm telling you.
I think that's such an integral thing. Like honestly, God, it's gonna sound horrible for me to say this, but I think that's why it's important to realize the limits of what your skill set is with a knife, and also knowing sometimes you might have to carry more than one.
Yeah. But we talked about this, Renee, extensively, man. We know, like we were some other day, man. Like you're seeing these guys doing everything against knife. The intent's not there. They're working with smaller people and this and that. The dynamics not there. Like I don't even watch anymore, man. If you're not working with a big guy, man, who's going to give you hell, man. I don't know. That's just my lens, but All right.
Yeah.
I believe in having an equalizer wholeheartedly,
What do you
and
carry?
I say that because
John?
I grew up in different parts of the world where things are pretty violent, and it was just the way things were, right? And
Yeah.
when I have someone who's 6'4", 300 pounds, I don't want to trade punches with them. You know? If my life's in danger and I gotta get the fuck out,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna tie box this guy. I'm not gonna grapple this guy. I'm gonna do whatever I need to do to get out
Yeah, 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 yeah.
because that's what self defense is to me,
Here's
right?
a question. Actually, this question can be for both of you. Don't know if we have already mentioned already. What are your favorite EDCs? How do you and where do you carry?
Well, my favorite, I carry a number of Benchmades. I love the Axis lock. I also am a fan. I have one of Bram Frank's Sister Christians. That's a personal favorite too, but it's a little big and bulky, you know what I mean, for every day. So I got,
You got the Magnum one, the bigger one.
yeah,
Yeah, they're big and bulky. They are. Yeah, yeah.
it's fun to play with, but like, depending, I have a knife for dress. I have a Benchmade for dress, 943 Colgera. I have a couple of Griptilians, and
Those are nice, huh?
oh yeah, they're nice action. You know what I mean? They work well.
How about
But
you,
I
Ray?
agree.
What's your EDC?
I carry a oh god, so I carry a 3-inch carabiner that has one key on it that opens no doors,
Mhm.
which just happens to work really well as a set of knuckle dusters. Now I'm
Yeah,
probably just getting myself into trouble if I ever get into trouble because for saying that. And I also have a couple of cheap Amazon knives that I really like. No serial numbers, no nothing on them, and I normally carry two of those. They're fixed. I
yeah.
I I I stay away from folders
Mhm.
personally
Mhm.
because I've had them fail on me before. And I've taught a few classes where we had folders where people had the folders actually collapse and like guillotine their fingers. Um, but yeah, I it's and I open carry like I keep because in Canada like if my shirt's over them they're concealed. If my shirt's above them they're open. And I listen like if a police officer sees them they're probably going to ask you some questions. But at the same token, I'm allowed to, so I'm not worried about it.
Right.
And like I said before, like this was given to me by a Piper student in Finland when I was teaching a seminar out there. Like they're carrying stuff like this.
Yeah,
That's
man.
not meant to that's meant to take you out, right?
Yeah,
Right.
100%.
So I
Well,
always look at the stuff that people give me as gifts and stuff, and I'm like, some of these people are carrying this stuff, and it's like, wow, like yeah, that's what I'm in my head. That's what I'm up against every day.
I don't know if you have, but Dean, have you ever looked at the knock talons and the
Yeah,
pick, Thompson
I have the
mock
pick.
pick?
Oh, I got a couple picks. Oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah,
This is the airline travel carry
yeah,
because,
yeah,
and nobody knows what it's really for,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
Those I have. Yeah, those I like. I mean, yeah, I love knock stuff.
I've
Not
got
yeah.
a
But
bunch of greenie.
also, just to be 100% honest, like I'm a carpenter. I have a hammer in my truck every day.
How about a sheetrock saw?
Yeah.
Those
Oh yeah.
lethal that you can have the seat on beside you, and
Like I got I have a 16-ounce hammer which I use on a daily basis, and I have a 23-ounce hammer that I keep in my truck. Like that shit is just gonna ruin your day. And it's like I remember when COVID hit in Canada and like ammunition like disappeared, and I was talking to a buddy of mine who's a Marine. I was like, man, all I could find is like trap loads, and he's like, buddy, you shoot someone with a trap load, that's gonna ruin their day. So it's yeah, it's a I'll be honest with you, it's a disgusting mentality to have on a daily basis, but I find that's the only thing that keeps me from staying up all night.
Hmm, I hear you. All right, so if we're gonna get it, let me get back on track with this for a minute. We started talking about the failures, right?
Yeah.
So now we believe when we train that there's different levels of failure. So I'm going to take you on the little mental trip here. You're up in Canada, you're in Connecticut. You guys know, slipping on ice. Okay, so the different levels of recovery. You imagine you step outside, you slip on ice, quick catch, almost, you know what I mean, instantaneous recovery. Nothing, no problem. It's just a little slip there. First one, now you start to slide, you reach out, you grab this steel pole, you catch yourself, and you're, solid within a second. Took you a second, wasn't as quick as the autocorrect one, but you caught onto the pole and you started to, save yourself. You did save yourself. Okay, now we slip again and we hit this pole, but this pole isn't stable. It starts to wobble. So now you have from side to side, the downward really quick to recover. You know what I mean? You're a second behind on that. Now your next step, you step out, you start to grab that pole, and that pole starts moving. How long do you reach for that? You know what I mean? How long do you stay in that moment where you're trying to reach out and grab before you know what I mean, eventually lose it? Now, the last one, and which is your worst end to possibly be in, is when you reach out to grab that pole, the pole just falls over. You know at that, no, I'm sorry, there's one more. The next one you go on, you grab that and you stabilize yourself for a second, then the pole snaps. You were almost there, but you kind of got screwed. Boom. Last one, your you go to reach out for that pole, you touch it, it just falls over, you totally lose it. There's nothing there. Do you see where I'm saying about the different levels of how far into failure you can become? The
Mm.
totally screwed. First
Well, you know, it's
one,
funny. It's like when I was snowboarding,
Oh,
my instructor said, If you feel like you're about to fall, don't fight it. Just sit down
yep.
and then regroup."
See, if you were fighting in an apartment, okay, let's just say you're fighting in an apartment on the fourth floor, right? You're aware that this window and this sliding glass door is there. At what point does the fire you're fighting not become your priority and that window and door does? When you get so close, at one point, it's automatically going to switch off. Screw him, I'll take the punches, I'm going down, I can't go over this railing. There's a moment in time where your mind just says, and shuts off. It shuts and it makes your body react to what it's going to do. It goes into survival mode. Sorry.
I agree. I'll say when I was working some after hours clubs back in the day when I was younger, and I may have mouthed off to the wrong people because I had a bit of a tendency of doing that.
I can't
Um,
imagine that, but no.
I know it's hard to believe. Um, but there's a couple times where I just took the beating because I knew me fighting back would be worse. And I think at that point they were just trying to um, teach me a lesson because I was working for them. And
Right.
I totally get what you're saying. You
Okay,
I don't
so
know.
no, I can relate to this because I worked in the clubs too. And the difference there I find in the club was being that it was a job, there was not really any emotional attachment. It was a job. Most of the time I'd walk over there, they'd say this, I would laugh. It wouldn't bother me. You know what I mean? I know my end game is to get this guy out the door. However, I got to do it. I'm going to try to be nice about it. If it doesn't work, then I have to not be nice. But I'm going to get this guy out this door. So that was it because you could have called me anything you wanted. I don't know you. I'm not going to know you tomorrow. It makes no difference. and like I said, there's no emotional attachments. Now, I'll give you another example that I had. I was with my daughter at a football game at Gillette Stadium. Now, in that moment, right, there's a guy who was up and had a little bit too much to drink, and said something to my daughter. So I recognized one of his friends right away. I said, "Pal, you better get your friend out of here." Okay. Now people start gathering. Now I have to do a quick beliefs and values, like we talked about processing that first moment. I got to do a quick check on my beliefs and values. And, okay, I'm going to fight for my daughter anytime. We already discussed that. I'm in Gillette Stadium. There's cameras all over the place. But you know what? I'm here with my daughter. These guys are drunk. I think I've got, the upper hand as this situation goes. Now they're starting to see more people are starting to gather, and I know more people are with them. It was up to 5. Nothing happened at this thing. And, at this end, security came right at the last second, but I was just about to lift off. You know what I mean? On this, and I had my first 3 gone, and security came. You had to call it down. But the processing of what I was about to do and what I was about to get into was totally different than when I was working at the club and had no emotional attachments.
No, you're getting ready to go to that dark place, right? Like,
Yeah, my
I
daughter too. So that's a pull. Again, this is another pull. You know what I mean? My vision, I'm starting to look around because there's more people gathering. So there. So my attention's switching. Okay, now I got all these. Now I'm also processing my attack because this one to my left is going, I'm going across the way. Then one that was really, really drunk was last on the list. I knew I had a barrier, this guy, between that guy and this guy that was drunk. I really wasn't worried of him. I could have just pushed him over.
so
But
yeah,
go ahead.
I was at the hospital with my kids a few weeks ago, maybe about a month ago now, and there was a guy that was really drunk in the emergency room, and he was being really loud and like screaming and yelling and telling everybody like to go fuck themselves and stuff like that. And I walked up and I'm like, "You're scaring my kids." And he's like, "I'm really sorry." I'm like, "No, you don't understand. You're scaring my kids."
Mhm.
And then I realized the second time I said it, he actually, that's what really pissed him off. The first time would have been enough, but the
Yeah.
second time, So,
But you
he was calling me, he was calling me a bunch of names, and I sat beside him, and I just basically said, "Hey, listen, man. Like, do you have kids? Like, do you want to scare kids? Like, those are my kids, and you're scaring them." And I went out and I got a bottle of water, and I sat down with him, and we chatted a little bit, and I completely calmed him down. But my initial contact was the it's time for me to go to that dark place, and
Mm.
and and even
but
like my wife was there, and she's like, "You're I think you're starting to freak that guy out." And that's when I changed it and decided to, like, how much of a threat is this person actually, right? Like, if I sit beside him, and I sat beside him, held onto his hand, said, "I know you're having a bad day. Here's a bottle of water. Tell me about your day." I didn't give a shit about how his day was going. I was just trying to diffuse the situation because I wanted my kids to see also that as crazy as daddy can be, he can also
Yeah, you have
uh
that compassionate underside or the
yeah.
alleged compassionate. No.
2 different mental preparations for 2 different situations. Like, that wasn't nearly the same as working in a club.
Oh, hell no.
No,
Hell
this
no.
is what I'm saying. Now, with those emotions going in there, and it was great because you reeled them in, you caught it that you were going, but it could have gone the other way really fast. And that's what I'm saying. If you can get to that moment, you recognize that, hey, wait a minute now, I'm being pulled. Let me try to diffuse this kindly. You process all these things. That's all part of the recovery, you know?
I'll say this: 98% of the times that I got into a confrontation at the bars, at the legitimate bars, I managed to talk my way out of it. Even in the like the after hours and stuff that I used to work in. But there are people sometimes who just have the devil in them, and they're dying to get into something, right?
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, like I always told people, like, I'm going home.
Hmm.
Yeah, 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 right. Oh,
Different
John, we
going.
got a question. Um,
Yeah.
are there non-fails is there only one fail? This is from Tony regarding your examples on the failures. I'm assuming with your analogy with the pole. I think.
Yeah, thing goes off perfect. You know what I mean? If a non-fail would be that, you go back to the first guy at Home Depot. You know what I mean? You read him, you knew that, you went to business because, like I said, it was borderline attacking, and there were no instances, no slips. Everything went off as planned, just as you hoped it would. But it's that's the easy one. If you can train in the deep end of the pool, you know what I mean, then you can take care of the stuff in the low end of the pool. And chances are that's how you've been training for multiple years now anyway.
Yeah.
So would you
Another
agree that we can be our own fails sometimes? Like
absolute
like we sometimes, and I will attest to this. Because when I was younger, I may have had some issues. Sometimes, you know, a simple apology would have just fixed everything instead of the, hey, go fuck your mom sort of thing, right? Which I may have said once or twice in my life. Um, I think that's part of the training as well. Is we have to recognize when we can be, like even like the hospital example, where I started realizing I'm the one that's escalating this now, right? I think we need to teach people as well that we can be our own failures, right? When it comes to de-escalating.
Mm.
absolute.
Instead of de-escalating, we're actually escalating. Yeah, yeah,
Oh
yeah.
hell yeah! Oh man, like listen, half the time when I see a road rage incident, a simple apology or a hey,
Would have
I'm not perfect, I'm
probably
sorry,
would
could
have
have
ended
just
it, right?
fixed everything. But how many
My
times you see people coming out with a piece of pipe and then all of a sudden the guy's got a knife or
Yes. Crazy, right? Over. Yeah.
I used to have an issue with road rage, and now I look at well, it's the end game, though. Really, if you can see things all the way through, is it really worth it? This guy flipped me off in the car. Oh my God. And I used to stand up on my seat, pull over. I'd be chasing, pull over. Now it's like I don't let it bother me. One of the things is I know at the end of the day, like if I pull over onto the side of the road, now I got to define this to the judge. So Tom,
Mm.
sure you can explain it to the judge. So I got to say to this judge, well, he gave me the middle finger and said mean words. Had to get out, and heaven forbid, even if you just slapped him once and he falls down and hits his head and
All
goes in,
right.
you
I,
is it worth
I,
it?
what changed my mind about a lot of that stuff is I met this Russian dude once.
Yep.
Uh, he was a glass installer, and like I came in one day and his crew is all bandaged up and they're all messed up, and I was like, "What happened?" He's like, "Oh, I was driving down the street and guy gave me finger." And I was like, "What'd you do?" He's like, "I pulled over and I tried to cut his finger off." And like he's telling me how they got into this massive scuffle, and I was like, "That's not worth it."
No.
No, no way. Nobody's gonna own my bank account, my house, for give me a finger in a freaking car, man. Are you kidding me? No.
And some of these cats take that shit pretty seriously, right? So I was like, it made me rethink about like flipping people off driving.
Well, I don't respond the same way anymore. And one more thing I was going to say on that, like all of that, yeah. What's even worse is to come home and tell my wife that we're about to lose everything because,
Because you actually initiated pulling somebody over to because they right? I know.
but he gave me the finger. Oh, that's okay. We can lose, what I
So
mean,
we can lose
everything.
financially and give a civil suit and
I got a good one for you, and my wife actually brought this up to me a while back, and it started to really like set in when when my concrete head actually was able to absorb the information. She said, when you like my actions have consequences, and some people may not be, they may not, they might be afraid to do something to me, but they won't be afraid to do something to her because they know that she's with me.
Right.
So it's changed the way I look at doing things now. Like literally, even my interactions online when I used to tell people, "Hey, your shit sucks" and whatever else. Um, I've had to tone that down because I hear her voice. It's like they're not afraid to. They're afraid to deal with you, but they won't be afraid to deal with me or with our kids.
Right.
So tone that shit down, and it's made a huge difference in the way I think because it's true. Like, listen, like
Well,
I'm
you
not going to mess with a gentleman who's 5'8" and 300 pounds, uh, but oh sorry, or 6'4", excuse me. Um, but hey, if I can get to him by fucking his family up, and I'm one of those crazy people, then I'm part of the problem, right?
absolutely.
So I've uh, I've toned it down a little bit. I'm working on it, but it's one of those things where I literally hear my wife's voice nowadays, where she's like, like your actions, the consequences of your actions are not just towards you, but there are people who love you and the people who are around you.
They're gonna be affected. Yeah. Hey,
Two things.
John, I have
I'll
to
give you
wrap.
an answer to that. Okay. Just as a girl dad, she's 10 years old. You got to be there, man. Your toughest years are coming up. You can't be. How messed up would you feel if you were behind
Good point.
trials? Maybe you even get off, but you're going to miss the next 5 years of her life, 6 years. Her graduation, her driving her car. She's going out with who?
Yeah,
These things, that's way too much to lose. Way too much to lose. You know what I mean? In my
it has to be in the grand scheme of things. As weird as this may sound, it has to be absolute worth it. And people's name calling and shit like that is just not. It really isn't. And that was a really hard lesson for me to learn because as an immigrant myself and the bullshit I had to deal with, like I would fight on a dime before, but now it's just like, you know, I
you
just
got too
can't.
when you were alone, when I was alone too, I didn't care. I'd go buy, I haven't drank in 34 years, but I'd go buy a 6 pack and I'd eat beets out of a can for a week. It didn't matter. Now, all of a sudden, it's not about us anymore. It's about them. As a man, we accepted this responsibility to, be the protector of our wives, children, you know what I mean, and daughters all the more. Women and children, Tom always says they don't belong in our world. We're here to keep them out of our world.
All right,
Yeah.
good. Yeah, that's great. Hey guys, I got to run at 8:30. John, but I want to wrap up. John, are you definitely like willing to come back and like we can concentrate on the four themes and all that?
Yeah, but could I have like 2 more minutes just to do
Oh yeah,
one
no,
more?
no, 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 absolutely. I just wanted to let you guys know at 8:30. But yeah,
Actually, we're going to give you 4 minutes. I don't care what Dean says.
yeah, go ahead.
One more thing that I'd like to see people introduce into their training is that nothing guy. The nothing guy is the non-threatening, no, no threat. He's nobody. He's who you turn around to every day. See,
Mhm.
if you did a drill and you turn and say, all right, we've all done 100 drills probably this way, where you turn around, I'm going to take the bag off your head. You got to attack the bad guy or, defeat his situation, his frame, whatever. So you turn around, you're geared up to do that all the time. But that's not really where life, true life, 99 out of, 99.999 times out of 100, you're going to turn around, nothing's going to happen. You had to have that nothing guy. And then let's say you're going to turn around 100 times and I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to be standing there with my hand. But one of those times you turn around, somewhere around number 63, I decide I'm going to throw a punch at that moment. So when you turn around, that punch is there. You would have a much more realistic idea of what your unassumed block in defense of that punch is going to be than if you did when you turn around and you're already ready. You know what I'm saying? You follow me on that?
100%. It reminds me of. Did you see that video of the guy at the pizza joint? He's like having a slice of pizza and a coffee, and the guy's like slapping him in the face. And like takes a cigarette out and just puts it out, reaches to his back pocket and just stabs the guy.
Yeah. But that, you know, I said, we do drills like we turn around, and every time you turn around or every time you step up, it's a bad guy, and that's not real life. So you're way up here and you're ready to move. Well, if you turn around and you have to, read whether this guy's legitimately a threat or not, you're going to have to process for a second, and then you react. And that's it. Just that moment, that processing moment, if we can get that quicker, that's going to improve our recovery.
100%.
Recognition. Yeah, awesome. Man,
But
John, I want to thank you so much for doing this. Please, let me know what works. I can get you on sooner than later. The four themes. Definitely want to do it. Yeah, so just let me know. It could be Wednesday here, but let me know when you can do it. But I would love for folks to see like you do some of that material if it can happen. Whether you got Wally, you got Lexi,
yep,
whatever it takes. But
we'll get
as
Lexi on,
always,
man.
brother, amok. You know.
Brother. And
Yeah.
Renee, it's a pleasure
All
meeting
right,
you.
man.
And yes,
Oh, dude,
that,
like honestly, that was I love having conversations with people who I can think alike with and can, kind of like steer my
I
mind
told you
into
about
different
it, man.
directions, and you're definitely one of those people.
I would love to get together sometime, and you know what I mean. Uh,
100%.
hope it work out.
Yeah,
And
we're due to get
I can tell
together,
you about the
John.
time that I can tell you about the time that Dean headbutted me in the chest when I was just minding my own business.
John, we're due to get together, man. We got to get together. So,
he's a bit of a bully.
yeah. But
And he's
awesome,
a
man.
bully, definitely a bully.
Yeah, right. All right, but I'll be in touch, John.
Awesome.
Brother, love you. Stay safe, and
I
I will
love you
talk.
too, man. Amok.
Need some help for the next couple of weeks.
All right, I'll
All
be in
right.
touch. Let me know. Seriously, I want to get you back on sooner than later. All right,
It'll happen. I just gotta I'll line up Lexi, see if she can fit me into her busy schedule,
there you
and
go.
I'll lay out a little curriculum here for us to go through to better explain it. I'm sorry, I kind of got broadsided with it a little today because I was
No, this is great. We can go next time. Just a great excuse to bring you on another time. No worries,
Yeah,
man.
absolutely.
No worries.
beautiful.
All
Thank you
right.
guys very much. It was a
All
pleasure.
right, you take care, big man.
You too, sir. Thanks.
All right,
I'll get
Amok.
that glitch next time in the beginning. We'll
All
just
right,
stop the phone.
no worries. All right, take care.
Thank you.
All right, folks. Also, we're gonna be bringing him back. He's gonna do the four themes demo. Today was more on recovery, but hey, it was still great stuff. I told you, man, you'd like him, man. That guy.
That dude, I know it's on camera, so you can't tell,
Uh,
but just from the background with the door sizes, that fucking guy is huge.
okay, remember I was telling you I was working grappling with this big guy?
Yeah.
That's the guy. So can you imagine? He's in your guard, and he's
No.
coming down like now. Do you know what? Check this out. I got him in the Kimura. He blew out of it. He blows out of the corner, and then he starts indexing. And so I have his arm for like this, and actually it was a keeper because and I can get killed. But that guy is frightening. Yeah, Big
Massive.
John is frightening. In a
Like
muck, man,
honestly,
he's
like
just
go back to
phenomenal.
that video, look at the door frame behind him,
Yeah,
and
you
I
see
know
him?
there's some distance, but
Oh,
that dude is fucking huge.
I'm telling you, in his hand, Walt. I mean, all the muck guys can tell you, man. It's like John is just all of us in a muck. Like he is, yeah. Like don't F with John, man. That's pretty much it, man. But
My
he's a great
my
training partner.
goal, Dean, my goal in the next 12 months is to get you to swear.
Good luck, man, because many have tried on this, but good luck, man. I got 5.5 years counting, man. So good luck. But
Hey,
hey,
so
brother, go ahead.
coming up, we have the jousters coming in.
It's up to you. You gotta let me know about them next week, because otherwise, I got Dwight Woods, I got Darcy, and it's fair to say maybe John needs 2 weeks to bring him back. So let me know if they're good for next week. If not, I definitely have people we can go with.
And we also have Randall, who works for the VA, who is a veteran as well, who we spoke about getting in and He's a fellow dog brother, lifelong martial artist. But I would love to bring him in and talk to all our veteran friends out there and where they can get help if they
Yeah,
need help.
do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. Um, but awesome. Hey, thanks so much. Always a pleasure doing these with you, and we'll obviously we'll be in touch.
No worries.
All right, folks. Thank you. Hope you enjoyed this. See you next time. All right. Let me just wrap this up. Okay, guys. Next Wednesday, Friday, have a episode on Friday. FMA discussion 2 to 3:30. Mike Macaventa, California. Going back, so that'll be an FMA discussion, FMA centric. Check it out again. Friday 2 to 2:30 Eastern time. I'm trying to remember what style he is. I can't off, but I know he trains under Burton, which is kind of why I'm bringing him on. So, but yeah, check it out if you got nothing going on. And Saturday might be doing a doubleheader weekend. Brandon Ricketts might be bringing him on Saturday as well. So, both would be FMA discussion. All right, folks. Thanks for jumping in. Hope you enjoyed tonight. Thought it was awesome.